Recording. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us. We're very excited for this conversation tonight. We are going to dive into the business of baseball. We've got some of the industry's leading experts in their verticals, specifically in baseball, and then even beyond that. So I'm very excited to dive into this conversation. I do want to give a shout out to our partners on this project, the Minnesota Twins. They've not only joined us as partners in the Academy in our 14-week program, but as you can see with sessions like these, they're helping us spread the word and get the sport industry exposure in front of you all, even beyond the Academy itself. My name is Vince Pearson. I will be moderating tonight's discussion. But hopefully, if I do this right, then my voice will be the one that you hear the least. So before we get started, it's customary for me, I always like to just challenge our group. For the students who are here, some of you have already started, but maybe we'll take a hand or two, or just love to see your thoughts in the chat. Just one word about how you're feeling coming into tonight's session. I've already seen a few. I see curious, intrigued, receptive. What's one word, or anyone want to come off of mute and share what you're looking forward to tonight?
Hi, my name is Jonna Williams. I'm actually very excited for this tonight, just to learn more about how business operates within baseball. I have some experience with the different entities of sports, so that's what I'm really excited for.
All right, thank you. Empowerment, Tawana, great word. I think, Tawana, you were the one driving, so that's your second strike there. One more voice before we dive into today's conversation. Anxious from Harold. Anyone want to come off of
I
mute?
would definitely say hi everyone, my name is Kiara Green. I would definitely say I'm coming into this open-minded, really receptive to learn anything I can from this seminar, and excited to see what you guys have for us.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So without further ado, I'm going to see if I can pull my panelists into our boardroom. Awesome. There we go. So for the students, as we go through this conversation, please feel free, use the chat to drop questions. Send them to me directly if you'd like to come off of mute and ask those questions. Obviously, we want to make sure that your voice is heard in this conversation as well. As I mentioned, Vince Pearson, I am the founder of the Black Sport Business Academy. I've been working in the sports industry for 12 years or so, bouncing back and forth from baseball, basketball, college athletics. I left sports for a year, and now been an entrepreneur for 3 years. So sport adjacent, but still very much in love with this industry. For our panelists, Josh, I'll start with you since you're on our far end of the table here. Would love, if you don't all mind, just giving a quick introduction, name, where you're from, and what you do for the organization you work with.
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is Josh Ruffin. I am the assistant director for player development research here. I work with our minor leaguers, try and do what we can to turn them into major leaguers. I am originally from the Washington, D.C. area, and I moved up I joined the Twins here in 2019.
Awesome. Meka?
Yeah, hi, Meka White-Morris. I'm the Executive Vice President and Chief Business Officer at the Twins. I've been in sports for 22-ish years, give or take. I have worked in the NBA, the NFL, baseball, college, amongst some other things. And today I oversee all of our revenue generating marketing, communications, broadcast, innovation, and data and analytics teams. So happy to be here.
Hey, everybody. Tyrone Brooks with Major League Baseball. I oversee what's called the MLB Diversity Pipeline Program in MLB, which is focused on bringing people of color and women into opportunities in the baseball operations space. This is my 28th year in the game. I was on the club side for 20 years with Atlanta, Cleveland, and Pittsburgh, and now I've been with the commissioner's office for this is my 8th season. So looking forward to interacting with everybody.
Hi, everyone. My name is Philicia Douglas. I am the Director of Brand Partnership Sales here with the Twins. I'm the newer face, I would say, here with the Twins. I've been here for about 7 months now. just going on 7 months. And, before that, I was with the New Orleans Saints and Pelicans. And then before that, I was with the Miami Dolphins. So I haven't been in the industry as long as everybody, but I feel like I've got some knowledge to share with the group, and I'm excited to talk to this crew. I see some familiar faces, and just really excited to share that knowledge. I think there's some future us's out there, so I'm excited about that.
I love that. And that's exactly what we're here to do today, is to pour water on those seeds, those future leaders. So now I guess we'll go a little deeper. So why don't we go in reverse, Philicia? We'll start with you.
Sure.
And as you'll see, this is a customary for me. What's one word that you would use to sort of describe your path in sports to this point, and then why that word?
The one word I would use is enlightening. So quick background, I never thought that I would be here, right? And even more, I didn't think I would want to work in sales ever a day in my life. That was something I just didn't want to do. Until I had a mentor, his name is Dr. Bill Sutton. He kind of pushed me into the sales space, and he said I could do it. And it was scary. And I feel like that's been almost like a trend in my life for, since I've been in sports. Is every single thing that I've done, even though it was a little bit scary and different, it's been enlightening, and it's really gotten me to the next level. And so I'm appreciative of all those scary moments. So I would say enlightening for sure.
I love it. Enlightening. Tyrone, what about you? Just a little longer than Philicia, but what's the word that you would use? Tyrone, you're still on mute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, the one thing I would say is journey, is understanding that working in sports or working in baseball in general, it's all about a journey. And you have an opportunity right now. This is a starting phase for many of the individuals here. The game has a way of just taking you to all different places. So much is available to each and every person. And it's a matter of how you go about navigating and look at it truly as a marathon versus a sprint. And that's the way I've always tried to look at it. And even when I'm telling folks that are interested in getting into the game, understanding that there's going to be different ebbs and flows of our game, whether you're at the point when you're first getting in with an internship possibly, or a trainee opportunity or a fellowship, and then making what you can the most out of that opportunity and see where it takes you. I was very blessed to get started in the game thanks to Hank Aaron. He created a program in Atlanta called the Career Initiative Program. And that opened up a door for me and so many others that got started in the game through that program. And, now in the work I'm doing and helping folks to get into our industry, it's like now that everything has been allowing me the opportunity to pay it forward. And, with that understanding, it's a journey in the game of baseball, just working in sports in general. You're going to have different opportunities that are going to come your way. And it's a matter of how you go about navigating that. I've lived in all different parts of the country and traveled the world thanks to the game of baseball. Whether, when I grew up in Maryland, I moved to Atlanta. I moved to Kansas City for a short stretch, was a scout there, moved back to Atlanta, moved to San Francisco to continue scouting on the professional side, and then moved to Pittsburgh to work in the front office, moved to New York. And then now, for the first time in my career, I can kind of decide exactly where I want to live at this stage. So, which is kind of nice. So it's all about the different steps and following that, but finding something for yourself that you're passionate about and then running with it.
You would think you'd know how to get off mute after 2 years of COVID plus, but apparently still I'm struggling. So I would say risk taker. For me, my journey in sports isn't a linear one. I didn't spend all my time with one league or one property. I didn't spend all my time in one city or one state. I took risks to advance my career for opportunities that would help me grow. And it took me from the Boston Celtics to the Cleveland Cavaliers to the Oakland Raiders to the Charlotte Hornets to Live Nation and Learfield Sports to Major League Baseball and some other stops in between. And so, I think that every path is important and different. And, we all make choices based on kind of what's happening in our personal life and professional life. But my path has been one sort of filled with taking risks, and whether it's jumping into something you think that you wouldn't want to do, trying something new, going to a sport that isn't a sport that you would say, hey, I love hockey, but hockey's providing me an opportunity that I can't get elsewhere. I think it's all important because it tests yourself, it tests your knowledge of the business, your ability to deliver, and your ability to do that in multiple environments, in multiple cities, with multiple partners and ownership groups and leadership teams. And so, I would say that it's been risk taker for me, no doubt.
I love that.
No benefits going last here. My stuff got taken. So I'll cheat a little bit. So originally I was going to say circuitous because it can be hard to get into sports. There's a lot of I got an internship, and after that internship, I ended up having to get back out of sports because I wasn't offered a full-time job. I had to work in a different role before getting back into sports. But to kind of give a different perspective, because I think Tyrone and Meka hit on it pretty well. I would say I would use ever expanding. I think one thing on that is the fact that there's kind of this idea you might have, let's say on the outside looking in, of what skills you might need or what you have to do to do the job that you want. But as you get into the role, as you get into the industry, as you learn more and more, you realize that tool bag that you got to bring has to be a little bit bigger. And so you're just constantly learning, constantly trying to get better, and to kind of like evolve and get to where I want to be. I've had to add skills beyond just what I thought were being an analyst or being a baseball guy to be able to survive.
I think that was a perfect segue to a question I was going to get to, but instead we'll start here. Each of you are in different departments within sports, and we always like to dive into, Josh, those specific skills you need to be successful with the work that you do. So since you introduced that for us, what are some of the skills on the research side of the business, on the player development side, that our students can be mindful to build if this is the segment of the industry they want to break into?
Yeah, I mean, I would say one of the biggest things that you really, really need to focus on is communication. And I think that goes beyond just being able to kind of, reach out and talk to people and connect with them. But I think also too, in my role where I'm delivering information to an end user, if you want to call it that, I got to make sure that end user understands how they're going to use it. So being able to relate with them, being able to kind of break it down on their level, being able to make it comfortable for them to accept the information that we're giving to them, and then also being super open and responsive to how they respond to it. And being able to incorporate that into your workflow. So you could also, I guess, throw flexible in there. Those are two skills that I have as like being very crucial. I think a lot of times it's this idea that you kind of solve the answer and then you give the answer and the person runs with it. But a lot of times you really have to do a lot of the helping there to make sure that we're all on the same page.
And Meka, I want to come to you with the same question. Overseeing all of revenue for the entire organization, what skills would you say are most important, not only where you are, but even along the way?
So many things, but just an ability to listen, to understand, to find really good people and find a way to trust them, to also recognize that you don't have all the answers. No one person knows everything, and to have an appreciation for other perspectives and other ways of approaching business. This isn't a business that you can do alone in a vacuum. Everybody on this call has needed somebody else to be a part of it with them today, before, to get to where you are. And that doesn't end no matter what seat you sit in. So to recognize the need for others and to empower those around you. And then also for me is just to understand that reputation matters. This is an extremely small industry. Everybody knows everybody. And how you show up, how you deliver, how you do the work that you actually are in the chair to do, all matters. And so execution certainly is a part of that, but how you treat people is equally a part of that. So for me, it's understanding, how we make money and how to position ourselves to make more of it. It's the ability to write. I get resumes, emails, inquiries from people all the time who've lost the art of the ability to write, and to write clearly, concisely, and get their point across, whether that be in an email or in written form in a presentation or otherwise. So all those things matter, because as others have said, it is a small industry, but it's also a very competitive one. And the small things are the difference makers, willingness to do the small things, the things that nobody else wants to do. And then also having a reputation where there's people in your corner who can vouch for you. Because all it takes is a phone call. I just got a phone call from somebody with Live Golf before I got on this call to ask me if I knew somebody who he was interviewing for a job. And this is somebody I knew from 20 years back. And what I say or don't say about that person will dictate their level of interest in that person, just like that. And so we all have to be really, really conscious of how you show up, and how you execute and deliver in the role that you're in and the relationships that you build along the way.
That's powerful. Philicia, what about you on the sales side of the house?
On the sales side, I would say you have to be okay with failing. Things are going to break, things are going to fail. That's just part of the game. It's how you show up after that happens and what you do with it, right? And I think that in the world of sales, oftentimes you hope that you see people and they post things on social or whatever it is, and they get this huge sale, but there's steps along the way that you're not realizing has happened, that's gotten them there. And part of those steps a lot of times are failure. And so I think it's important to be okay with that. Not just, you could take that outside of work, not just in work, but outside of work too. I think that almost everybody here, even on the call, they've failed at some points, and that's okay. That's how you get to your end goal. And so I think that that's super important, is being able to fail.
Yeah, it's Tuesday, and I'm already trying to keep my failures to one hand this week. Tyrone, how about you?
Yeah, I mean, a couple things come to mind. First and foremost, you have to be adaptable in this game, and in its industry as a whole, and being able to maneuver one way or the other, depending on different opportunities. But also, just when you come into an opportunity where you may be coming in as an intern, where your job may be helping multiple people, and being able to be flexible, to be able to move from one project to the next. Understanding, as was mentioned earlier, being able to communicate, being able to get messaging across to people, that's going to be important. And it's also very important that just to be able to build relationships with people all across the organization that you may have a chance to come into, or even the people that are part of your peer group now. Building those relationships. You never know where the folks that are part of your peer group maybe one day be in a position to try to hire you, and something to remember. And as was mentioned, it's like, your reputation is important, and how you go about it coming in maybe for this first internship, that could decide your fate based upon how you went ahead and did the job as you got started. All people have to do is make one single phone call, and the word will get out. You know what? That person was not very prepared. This person did an exceptional job. So being able to get that messaging across, being able to come into a role and or opportunity, and then being able to do your very best, but also, it's about, when you look at people, when they hire folks, first and foremost, all you need is one person to believe in you. Once you get in the door, then it's a matter of what you make of it. But then after that, there's also the people that you're going to meet along the way that are going to have an opportunity, one, for you to help them in their careers. As you're helping them, they may want to see you helping, want to end up kind of passing it forward to help you along the way also. And that's where, if you're doing the work that you're supporting somebody else and they recognize that hard work, they may be able to take you along on a journey with them as well. So that's just something, you just never know. Once you get in the door there, you never know what can happen from that point forward.
That's awesome. Thank you all. Really powerful stuff. I want to bring this conversation to a center on, we're talking about the business of baseball. So we know that this whole industry of sports, there are a lot of commonalities, and then there are intricacies that make different segments unique. So baseball, I think there's the heavy tradition. There's America's favorite pastime. And I know we've got varying levels of experience with Philicia 7 months in, and Tyrone having spent a lifetime in baseball. But just from your own experiences and your own unique perspective, what would you say makes the business of baseball unique? And why don't we start in the middle this time, Meka? We'll start with you.
You know, sport is sport. It each has its nuance, but it's about trying to engage fans into an experience where, you know, the gift of sports and entertainment is that for, you know, those 2 hours or longer, it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, or what you look like. We're all in this together. We're all cheering together. And it's this sort of magical moment where, you know, the differences fade to the back and the unity around what we're cheering for and who comes to the forefront. And so while baseball, I would say, is the longest tenured sport in terms of organized sport that we've got and has a history that is rich, you know, we also have an opportunity to shift and grow and change. You know, the rules of our game have largely stayed the same for, you know, 100 years, if not longer. And yeah, recently we've made some adjustments like a pitch clock and larger bases and, you know, shift rules and otherwise. But for the most part, they've been consistent. And so, you know, how do you sort of create a love affair with a sport that hasn't really evolved much over the last 100 years? And that's what we all aspire to do every single day. How do you get, you know, a sport where, you know, I would say 40 years ago, the best athletes in the country wanted to play baseball. I mean, you had people like Michael Jordan, the best player to play his sport, arguably, quitting to play baseball. Bo Jackson, Deion Sanders, we can name plenty of others. But today, why don't the LeBron James and the Kyler Murrays and others want to play baseball? I think we've got to think about how we engage this new sort of demographic and young people, and it requires people who look like all of us to have seats in the room to be able to talk about what makes the game exciting to us and how we can start to talk about that to other people who look like us and want to engage in our sport. You know, the length of game, while it's gotten a heck of a lot shorter, you know, there's 81 home games, there's 162 in a season. You know, you can draft a baseball player and not see that player for the next 5 years. It's just a different sport in and of itself. And so we've got to find the right ways to drive the excitement and the instant gratification that a lot of sports have really harnessed that don't actually necessarily exist in our game. But yet I find it fascinating that I can sit with any number of you at a baseball game and have a conversation and not feel this angst that I'm going to miss something. There's something really special about that this time that you get to spend with people that you care about or that you want to be with. And so we've got a lot of work to do, no doubt, but we're well on our way. And the more that we can have young people, and in particular young people of color, in our game, the better our game will be for it. There is no mistake that when you have a more diverse team, the revenue and outputs are equally buoyed as a function of it. And so we've just got to do more of it. And we're doing everything in our power to make that adjustment.
Anyone else want to chime in on that business of baseball?
Vince, I'll chime in a little bit. The one thing that really stands out for me in this industry is just the people, man. The people in this game, it's just amazing each and every day, you know, having a chance to interact with people from all different backgrounds, all different, you know, whether somebody was a 10-year major league player or somebody that was just an intern, came out of college to get started in the game, or somebody was a student manager for a program, or just somebody that, you know, might have been an English major in college, but loved baseball and found their way into the game. It's just the people in this industry is what truly, you know, the friendships that you meet all throughout this game, I think for me just matters so much. And the relationships you build with folks that you get and one of the things I found, especially when I worked for 3 different teams, was every environment I was in, it felt like a family. And that was a great thing to have that. Even when I first started, I was the youngest in the front office with Atlanta by a good 10, 12 years, the minimum. And some of the women that I worked with that were some, even like our admin assistants at that time, they were almost like moms to me. And they treated me just like a mom was treating their son, trying to make sure that I had everything I needed to do my job and do everything I could to learn as much as possible. And they were willing to share so much. But it's just the people is what I think truly dictates so much about our industry and allows us to keep pushing our game forward. We need more and more individuals keep coming into the game. You're going to have that flow of people year after year. It's important that we have individuals like this entire group here come into our game and find their place, find their pathway to come into our industry. And it's just something that, there's a great organization that I've been a part of now for over 20 plus years, especially within the baseball operations space. It's called the Buck O'Neill Professional Scouts and Coaches Association. And I've been a part of this group. When we first started, we had 13 members when we first started. Now we have nearly 300 members across our industry. And with that, it's just grown because one, people want to pour energy in each other and help each other grow and develop. And we actually have a conference for this every November, the second week of November. This year to be in Phoenix. And when we have this like three or 4 days that we're together, it's like 3 of the best days of the year. Just having a chance to have like this whole brotherhood of people that are in our industry that look like ourselves, that want to help each other keep growing and developing. And it's so important. And that's where we are trying to continue to embrace getting as many younger folks to come in as well, to be part of this so we can help them on their pathway. And that's where, this whole idea of trying to pass knowledge, share knowledge is so important. And that's where the people in this industry truly matter.
Vincent, if I can just chime in, I've worked in the NFL and the NBA, right? And there's a different feeling behind working in those 2 leagues, right? There's like swag and flash, and it's nice. But I will say in the MLB, what I've noticed is that I don't see with the other leagues is the nostalgia behind like family time. And this is my opportunity to hang out with my dad or my grandfather, right? There's a strong presence in the MLB around quality time that I have not experienced before, even on sales pitches. I mean, we're talking to CMOs and CROs, and they'll talk to you because it reminds them of the time that they were on their grandfather's porch and they had a Twins game on. And it's just like, that piece is what gets them interested in talking about the Twins, right? And so I don't want us to lose that. But to Meka's point, I think that there's so much more that we can grasp if we grab more, Black and brown communities in this, because we can start continuing that generational time together at an early age within our community, which I think is a huge opportunity within baseball.
I'll jump in and just add like one small thing because you guys covered a lot there, but baseball is actually pretty groundbreaking as well too, and trailblazing in a lot of ways. So a lot of the stuff that we get to do, we're working with a lot of technology that's being designed just for baseball, and then being able to kind of spread out and influence other sports as well. And then kind of the analytics process, if you were to describe it that way, kind of started in baseball, if you will, and kind of spread out to other sports as we're kind of seeing, the 3-point revolution in basketball and kind of a little bit more risk taking in football. A lot of that stuff came out of a lot of baseball research that was being done that just applied to sports in general. So there's a lot of opportunity in baseball to kind of work on what is a cutting edge in sports in general, even though it might be a little bit more in the background and might be a little bit more hidden, and it's not necessarily how the sport likes to market itself. But even on the business side too, there's some cool stuff about how MLB and kind of their tech platform was actually instrumental in a lot of websites being able to create their own streaming platforms like HBO Max. So if you look at it, baseball is a lot more forward thinking than it likes to portray itself as.
That is a really good point. And something that you almost got to get a peek behind the curtain to fully understand. But appreciate you all adding that. For the folks from the Twins on the panel, I want to ask you all a specific question, and I want you to be honest, and then I want you to also take this as your opportunity to sell Minnesota, because the Academy exists to serve HBCUs at large part, though this is a workshop open to the entire community. Most of our HBCUs are along the East Coast, maybe even Southeast. And Minnesota, you know, I even say for myself, I am a little like geographically ignorant. It's like, wait, where is that again? So what was the transition like for you going to Minnesota, and then what's it been like building your community, you know, building your personal life in Minnesota? Philicia, I'm coming to you because you make it, and you're the newest.
Yeah, I'm the newest. Okay, so you know, I share some sentiment, right? Coming from the South, I was really nervous about moving to Minneapolis, like really nervous. I only seen snow maybe a handful of times in my life. And so the thought of that was scary, right? I was like, oh my gosh, but like I told you in the beginning, it's all about those bold moves and the enlightening that I was looking for. It's like, hey, this is a new thing. It's scary. Maybe there's something to learn from this. And I will say that it has actually been pleasantly surprising, and that it hasn't been a bad transition. It's not the best ever, but at the same time, you know, once you get over the winter, it's nice. You know, people are alive during the summertime. I mean, they're outside, they're going to parks. There's so many things to do. I mean, and then we've got Twins, which is in the summertime, that captures all of that outdoors activities. And so it's been really pleasantly surprising to move here. And I think that it's been nice also, like Josh has been great, Meka's been great, and just helping me understand the people here. So I've had a good time. It's been 7 months, more time to go, but it's been a good transition, I would say.
I'll go. It's cold here, y'all. It is cold, cold, cold. I've never had the inside of my nose freeze before at -20. It is no joke. And I'm from Boston originally, but I moved here from Dallas, and it's cold. However, look, anything worth having isn't going to be easy. And if you want a career in this industry and you want to be precious about where that is, like, you know, best of luck to you. You're going to have a tough road ahead. It's very rare that you get the opportunity to sort of say, well, I want to live in Miami or LA, and that's it. And so therefore, those are the only places I'm going to look to start or build my career. And I just believe character is made when things are difficult, right? And when you go and walk into something that feels challenging is where you learn the most about you, learn the most about yourself, and do the best work you can do. And so, you know what? Get a coat and put on a hat and do the job. There is flights, from my estimation, that leave from here every single day going somewhere warm. And it's just like, I think that's an excuse. And I think that's a smokescreen for, I'm afraid to try something different. Therefore, I'm going to stay in where is most familiar. And that is the place of least growth you can be. And so pushing yourself outside of what's comfortable for you, it will be your greatest test and the greatest opportunity to learn something that you never could otherwise. And so I welcome the challenge, and I welcome the fact that, yeah, in December or November or January or February or March or April or sometimes even May, it's still cold here. But you know what, you know, that is the stuff that you know, the best folks are made of, is their ability to persevere even when things are difficult. And you know, you find your way, you find your people, you find your tribe. It takes time anywhere you move. But I mean, for me, it's like, when things are tough and when I'm facing adversity, that's when I know that I'm actually onto something that's going to change the trajectory of my career. And so I lean into those moments versus leaning out and shying away. It'd be way easier just to go back to Texas or back to North Carolina or back to, you know, wherever, but staying in, staying planted and doing really good work is all the difference.
Yeah, I mean, it's been hit on, right? It's cold here. And grab a jacket, grab a hat, as if Meka knows that's not going to help most days here. No, I'll say this. So I'm a little bit different because I'm a military kid. So I moved around a lot when I was super young. So the idea of going to a new place and having to explore a little bit is less foreign to me. But what I'll say is that a big part of it is the fact that, yeah, getting outside your boundaries and getting outside, it's almost not even about the Minnesota part of it, actually. It's about just getting out and exploring and seeing different places. And you'd be surprised how much that pays off for you in the long run. You never know where you are 15, 20, 40 years down the road. And you're talking to somebody who might have influence over a decision or whatever, and that ability to kind of talk about, oh, lake, the Meka is a beautiful lake. Oh, I love running around it. Oh, doing whatever. And having that ability, that touchstone to kind of connect to people on is a valuable way to just kind of like ingratiate yourself a little bit, right? So I've always looked at it as kind of like, I love kind of going to new places and moving to new places. I may not love moving in general, but I like the ability to kind of explore new places. Just because you do get that kind of sense to kind of dive in, go through a little bit of culture shock. And I will say, even for me coming up here, there's a bit of a culture shock, but it is one where you get to just kind of expand your horizons a little bit. And that's something that I think has paid off for me in the long term.
No, that's great. I appreciate you all. I feel like those are very candid and real responses. The summary is, it is cold, and that's not for the weak. But when you do pull up, to Felicia's point, there's a community waiting for you. They understand what that transition is like, and they'll welcome you with open arms, but you got to be cut for it.
Hey, Vince, also one other point, for many, many years, they were playing baseball indoors in the Metrodome for years, but just think now they got a great facility, Target Field, which is wonderful. And then obviously in the summertime, it's beautiful, and the weather, it's a great ballpark. But just think, for all those years, I only went to the Metrodome once. I saw one game there, and the fact that you were just indoors with this type of environment to watch baseball, when now you have such a great venue to be outdoors watching baseball. And I've been there a number of times to Target Field, and I've loved it when I've been there.
No, that's that's great. It's something to be mindful of too, right? And I want to actually come to you, Tyrone, around like opportunities in baseball, and that's obviously your wheelhouse now. You've been with the league office for it's been, is it 8 years, 9 years now?
Yeah, this year number 8.
Year 8. So talk a little bit about just the work that you all have done to create those opportunities and what those might look like for the students on this call who are thinking baseball might be where they want to make their start.
Sure. Yeah. The biggest thing is there are a lot of different opportunities to get started. And it's just a matter of my job is to help to make sure I'm building awareness for folks so they understand what opportunities are out there, whether it's an internship, a seasonal role, a fellowship opportunity. There's all different ways that people can get started, first and foremost. And that's where it's very important to understand the timing as well. From here in our sport, especially from September through December, that's a lot of our times, that's our main hiring season. And I'd say probably about 80% of the hires in our game happen during that time period. My role in overseeing the diversity pipeline program is to get people into the baseball operations space. So with that, that's getting into major league operations, or interested maybe in R&D, understanding scouting or coaching, all different elements. There's a ton of different things. If you want to understand, about trades and how that happens, how that side of it, there's so much that's out there. Also one thing I want to bring up is, has anybody thought about the idea of becoming a major league umpire? That is a very viable option for someone too. We actually have MLB has a series of one-day camps we do all throughout the entire spring and going into throughout the summer and fall. We have one actually coming up on June 24th in Houston. This is at the Houston Astros Youth Academy, and it's about a 4 or 5 hour camp. You go through, showcase yourself, get a chance to see what you get a feel for things, And then from that, individuals are identified to then be a part of a bigger program we do in January, which takes place at our complex, the Jackie Robinson Training Center in Vero Beach, Florida. So there's a lot of different things, different opportunities that folks can understand. And the biggest thing is, this game has changed a lot. Years ago, you really had to truly know somebody to make your way in many cases. Now, with many organizations, every organization really putting jobs out there, the pathway is out there for individuals. And I'm trying to educate folks also to inform them about, hey, what skills our teams are really valuing, what things are, so that when you're going into this process, you have an idea of what to expect, what that day-to-day is going to look like, what things you should be thinking about when you go into interview, all different things that I can try to help and the rest of our staff just to try to help prepare folks to make their way into it. And it all, one of our really good opportunities that we do have is called the MLB Diversity Fellowship Program. Coming up will be our 4th cohort of this program. We've had, right now we're in our 3rd cohort that's in the middle of, they're finishing up later this fall. Our first 2 classes have done extremely well, and they've had a success rate of over 90%, which has been tremendous, of getting full-time jobs in the industry. And with that, it's about, one, creating opportunity first and foremost, and then seeing this group putting the resources in to help them, providing support. I meet with them over Zoom. We get a chance to connect with other professionals so they can continue to build their network as part of that. So it's just trying to make sure that individuals know, hey, there's a pathway for you. Also, one thing to remember, there are a lot of seasonal jobs that are open at every major league ballpark. MLB, as part of the Office of the Commissioner, our data operations department actually hires hundreds of folks that work each and every day behind the scenes at ballparks. Many of you may be aware of the MLB at-bat app. That information on all that data has to be collected, checked, verified, and used. There's a lot of great ways, even as a part-time position. This is a great way for somebody to gain experience. So there's a lot of different ways that someone can go into. Even our instant replay office in New York City, we have a ton of people that are both in person and virtually that help with behind the scenes work on that. And that's been a great pathway for folks to get to a club if they wanted to, or into a full-time role at the Office of the Commissioner. So all different ways for someone to make their way, but it's part of what I feel like I have to do is continue to educate folks. I look at resumes all the time, and part of what I want to do, even anybody here on this call, I'm glad to look at your resume, give you open and honest feedback to assist you. And that's the biggest thing, is getting that open and honest feedback to try to assist you, because I want you to have that opportunity to make sure you're bringing your best self forward in any process. And I'll make sure everyone has my email and everything in here, and I'll put it in the chat. Also, I'll put a link in for the diversity pipeline program as well. So anybody that wants to get their information out there, get on our radar, and we'll also be able to share additional information as different other events come together. We also have a scouting and coaching development program that we run in the fall that'll be taking place in October. But obviously just getting folks ready for the hiring cycle. One thing too, for those that are especially still in school and thinking about even opportunities for next summer, we have a tremendous MLB summer internship program. We have over 150 interns that are working in our office in New York City this summer. This is our biggest internship class we've ever had. And the application for that normally goes live in the fall. So getting a chance to understand the timing of when things like that come available is important. And there's a lot of great opportunities, including the Twins with their fellowship program they have, the Texas Rangers, other teams that have great opportunities. So just being able to understand the timing and when these different opportunities do come open is extremely important. And glad to see if we can be a resource to help anyone.
For the attendees in the room, I always like to say, when we have executive speakers say things like, you can reach out to me, your job is to make them regret that. So he should, by the time he gets off of this Zoom call, there should be at least 60 new requests in his inbox. And when he drops that email, he's going to need an admin to help him get through that stuff, right? But no, Tyrone, that's great. Another bit on building your awareness, building your familiarity, being able to tap in with the game. Many of our markets, our HBCU markets, have a minor league team. during your time on campus, go tap in with them. See what you can do. Volunteer for a game. See if you can shadow. Get exposed to this industry while you're on campus, because the best answer is yes, this is what I want to do. The second best answer is no, I'm not sure baseball is it for me. But you got to be exposed to it before you know how you feel about that. So I've got a few specific questions, and then students, I'll come to you all. Meka, your major in undergrad was journalism. And a lot of students that I mentor put a lot of weight into selecting their major, and rightfully so. But then you seem to have made a transition. I know some of the skills still apply, but on the, as CRO, one would not assume journalism to be putting you on that path. So can you talk about sort of, or fill the gaps on that portion of your story, Philip, for us, for anybody who might be kicking a can on choosing a major?
Yeah, I mean, back when I went to college, there wasn't a lot of schools that had fancy sports marketing degrees or master's degrees. That just wasn't afforded to me. There was a handful of schools, but the school I went to on a track and field scholarship didn't. So I thought, I wanted to be like the next sideline reporter, like, Hannah Storm or Robin Roberts, at the time when she was on ESPN, and did that for a bit and didn't love it, and sort of got thrust into the sales arm of sports, and the rest was history. And so what I would say is that, there are certain parts of our business that have specificity, and how you show up and what degree you get matters. But you got to remember, a sports team is a business like any other business, whether that's Target or Beats by Dre or Walmart. There's a product, and then there's a team of people who deliver that product. So we have accountants, and we have legal, and we have finance, and we have HR, and we have communications, and we have public relations, and we have salespeople and marketing people. So I think it's more about, choosing a discipline that you can get excited about, that you're, eager to do, whether that's marketing or communications or public relations, but then doing that discipline within a sports and entertainment environment. I would say, when you think about, some other avenues, whether that be our data analytics or engineers, I mean, those are really specific skill sets that you need. But more than anything, get the degree and do well and make the relationships. Tyrone talked a little bit about it. Each of you goes to a school. There's an athletic department at school. Each of you lives in a community. There is some sort of minor league team, whether that be, baseball or WNBA or minor league basketball or something in that city. Get to know them, spend some time, shadow, volunteer, intern. All of that experience matters, because understanding the business of sport and how it works, how we make money, where your sort of skill set can fit into that is a leg up in this industry without question. And so, I do think you can take, just about any background and make it applicable to sports. And certainly if you're in a master's or undergrad sports management program, even better. But, if that's not an offering at your school, or you're knee deep in a business degree or an accounting degree or what otherwise, know that all of those play a role in what we do every day. I could not survive without my finance team that, keeps me sort of in line on how we're tracking against our financial modeling, our HR team who does the recruiting, benefits, and support of everything that we do. So all of those disciplines certainly matter. I think somebody put in there something about player wellness. Without question, what they eat, nutritionists, trainers, all of that matters. And there are spots for all of that within our ecosystem. So just know that it's a business like any other. And yeah, our product happens to be what happens on the field behind me. But it's a product just like Clorox is a product, right? And they need a whole host of people to make sure that product gets on the shelves and is available to each one of us to purchase.
I think that's so easy to lose in our industry, is that, yes, it's fun, it's exciting. There's love around this game, and then there's a business, and there's a well-oiled machine that keeps that business going. Philicia, I want to come to you on the sales side. You already talked about how that wasn't where you saw yourself going. In fact, there may have been a little bit of rejecting the sales world, but getting into it now, you found yourself very successful in building a career. So what would you say to the young person who is similar to you in that they're like, yeah, sales is how would you maybe not sell it to them, but what would you say they're missing out on by not giving this a chance?
Well, do you want to make money? How, like, you
Period.
know what I mean? Do you want to make money? Because it's nice. And listen, there are so many other things you can do in sports, as Meka mentioned, but for me, and we can't be afraid as a salesperson, I like making money. I like commission. I like the opportunity to be in control of, how much money I'm going to make in a year. It's how hard I'm going to work in the year, right? And so I think that was a big selling factor for me. That's what told me, listen, okay, maybe I need to go ahead and try this over something else. But on top of that, sales has taught me the ability to speak to high-level executives, how I present myself, looking at documents like legal papers. And, there's just so many things that you learn from sales and so many different places that it'll take you. I've visited anything from a brewery to some of the top level, work environments that you wouldn't even realize the places that you see when you go into a sales environment and the people that you're talking to. Some people have some really amazing jobs out there, right? And so it opens your world to so much working in sales. And I think that we forget about that part. We think about, we've got to make cold calls and cold outreaches. It's what you put into it at the end of the day. If you're going to look at it as something that's a chore, well, then that's going to be a chore for you. Or if you're going to look at it as something as an opportunity to make yourself a better executive and business person holistically, then that's what's going to happen. So I think that if you're interested in sales, do not shy away from it. I'm so happy that I was like, let me just try. Let me just see what this is about. Let me see what people are talking about. And I can't imagine, maybe my life would have been a little bit different if I decided that I wouldn't do it. So that's what I would say.
I just gotta echo that, because nobody, when I graduated, I wanted to be a marketer. That's what I wanted to be, whatever that meant, right? And then I started and I'm like, well, how do you know if I'm doing a better marketer than her? And then who gets the promotion and the raise? And they're like, well, but she's been here longer than you. But I'm like, well, I'm doing more work than she is. And in sales, numbers don't lie. You put in the work, you get the result, you make more money than she does, period. And as a former athlete, black and white is really important to me. I don't want it to be subjective all the time where, you feel this need, in particular as a person of color, that at that time, I was always going to not be the pick. They were always going to pick somebody over me. But when I'm looking at a sales board and I'm like, well, I'm number one, it's really hard to try to not pick me for the promotion or for the next opportunity because I'm outdoing everyone else. And so it evened the playing field to the extent you can. For me in a way that I don't think any other avenue would have. And to Felicia's point, when you look around at people in very senior level positions in sport, a big majority of them come through the sales arm of the business. When you look at the front office business side, baseball operations is different. Because it's a lot easier to put somebody who can drive revenue at the helm versus somebody who's really good at PR.
That's a great, and I think that in and of itself can be something that contributes to a glass ceiling we may run into. It's really easy to, like Meka's point, turn away a candidate who's never made a dollar. I've spent my 5-6 years in D&I, and probably in year 3 was like, I need to find a way to tie this to revenue coming in.
Every time.
If I do not, then I'm going to end up in a box that's not going to be comfortable for me. So that's a great point. Thank you both for driving that home. Josh, I want to come to you, and you talked a little bit about the data, the statistics, the numbers, and how baseball has really been a leader in driving that. To the extent that you can, though, in a granular fashion, walk us through how that actually applies in the clubhouse, on the operation side of the business. What are those, how's data being used day to day to influence strategy on the baseball field or behind the scenes for the baseball operations?
Yeah, I mean, it's fully infiltrated, I'll say. We got a bunch of teams here, right? So we got individuals who work on projections, just trying to give us a sense of how good a player is going to be in the future. We got teams who work on biomechanics, like if you're interested in how the body moves, how the body stays healthy. We have a team that works on that. You know, myself, we're looking at trends to indicate what does somebody need to do to be a future big leaguer based on what they're doing now, how old they are, and all this. I originally was working in the advanced scouting role, so that was actually working down in the clubhouse with our on-field staff. 2019, might I add, when we won a lot of games. And you know, we had the chance to sit there and actually talk with the coaches and help them review in-game strategy. So there's a lot of stuff. I mean, we're collecting data on every pitch, on every play where a player is running around the field, where they're standing, how hard was it hit. We're collecting a lot of data off the field and practices. We're tracking a lot of trends throughout the year. So we have the ability to kind of, I would say, like at the beginning, when people were first kind of getting into the operation sides and using this, you had to be a little bit of a jack of all trades. But now we have the ability to have, you know, the realm of specialization. So you're able to kind of get into the part of baseball that you really like the most, and be able to kind of focus on that throughout the majority of the year, while also still being able to kind of bounce around and help other groups out.
It's a skill, data analysis, turn data into stories, just being able to navigate it, that everyone in this room is going to need, period. I think especially, you know, where we are in the world today, whether you're going to sports or not, you better build a familiarity with data. For our panelists, we're coming up on 6 o'clock. I lost track of time. I'm sorry, I'm putting you on the spot. Do you need to leave right at 6, or do we have time for student questions? And I'm 6 on East Coast time, so it's 5 for you all, I think.
I have to leave right at 6.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's all right. So I'll let you do any like parting words, because as we come up on that, and then if you're open to it, I'll facilitate communication otherwise. But any parting words that you have for our audience before we, you know, start to come to a close and go to some student questions?
Just for me, just know that we need you. We need each and every one of you to make a dent in this industry. You know, what everybody on this call has experienced, gone through, sacrificed, worked through, is all to create a runway for each one of you to walk into this industry in a way that is easier, better, faster than we all have had to experience. And that doesn't mean that it's bad or hard. It just means that, you know, rising tides lift all boats. And so just stay encouraged. It is not easy. It's not supposed to be. Things that are worth having never are. But know that you have people fighting every day to ensure that each one of you has a road in this industry that is uniquely set up for you. And so use your relationships, use your resources, reach out, stay connected, ask questions. Don't be the person that sits on the sideline and doesn't speak up. That one impression can change everything. I'll never forget being on a panel and a young man asked me a question. I never forgot him. And when he circled back for a job, you know, 5 years later, I remembered him specifically because he was brave in front of a whole host of people who said nothing. So like, just know every interaction counts with everybody that you get the chance to interact with. The people in front of you right now are going to be the leaders in this industry, not just today, but tomorrow. So your ability to make an impression on them matters. And so I appreciate you all. I appreciate the time, and know that I'm here and happy to support any of you to the best that I can.
Meka, thank you so much for being here with us. I typically have folks, if you can, those who are here, give a round of applause. We can see your faces up at the top. So thank you very much. We are going to spend a few minutes in student questions. I have a few hands raised, and then I have a few folks that shot me notes. So Shalay Flakes, you were first. You can just come off of mute and ask your question.
Hi there, my name is Shalay Flakes. I attend Florida A&M University. My question was that it was mentioned earlier that the MLB is much more forward thinking than it likes to display. And I'm curious, what are some benefits or motivations it has to maintain that appearance?
Oh man, I guess I walked myself into that, huh? No, it's a good question. You wonder why. I think it's mainly because MLB, and I think you could ask anybody inside, might have dragged their feet on necessarily trying to catch up with the trends of the world around them. It liked to really lean into the idea that the game that you're watching today is the same game that Babe Ruth played and all that. So it kind of tied itself up and created a fan base that views it as, hey, this is tradition. We don't need to change anything. The game is perfect as is. I think we've seen other sports have a little bit more flexibility to say, hey, what can we do to make this better? Whereas baseball has kind of framed itself as the ideal game, right? So on that front, you do see like the game kind of pigeonhole itself. But again, I think as you guys have seen with the new rule changes that we have this year, the new marketing stuff, the fact that you don't see people getting thrown at for these amazing bat flips that we're pulling off all the time. So it's a changing of the guard, and I think a changing of the fan base that's leading to the game being able to allow itself to grow and evolve in a way that it hasn't over the past, 80, 90, 100 years.
I love it too, because it feels like a natural evolution. And for those with a little more season on us, it's like we get to see the shedding of some of the traditions in a healthy way.
Can I chime in just real quick?
Sure.
On that note, I think that a lot of baseball teams are starting to reimagine what baseball looks like in the future in general. And, the other day, Josh, we had a whole golf simulation out in our ballpark. I mean, we had people hitting golf balls into the field, and, it was turned into a Topgolf. And so, you think about baseball as baseball, but I think there's other ways that we're starting to really realize, listen, we've got a big footprint. How else can we use it to get the kind of fan base that we're looking for that's forward thinking?
Mm-hmm. No, that's really neat. So really quick, for showing love and respect to our speakers, we're going to go to 6:15. I'm not going to hold y'all longer than another 10 minutes because you gave me time already. And for the question askers, with that, try to be quick with your question and pick a panelist, right? Don't just say for everybody because we got to move. I'm going to go in order of hands. Nia James.
Hello, my name is Nia James. I'm a rising junior at Winston-Salem State University. This question was specifically for Meka and Philicia, but I'm sure all of you panelists can give your input. As Black female executives working in a white and male-dominated industry and in a predominantly white sport, what are some pointers that you have for Black women aspiring to work in baseball but are feeling discouraged due to the demographic?
I guess I can chime in. Do not be discouraged. It's all about your mindset. Your mindset is, oh my goodness, this is the demographic that I'm not used to. It should be the opposite. It should be like, oh my goodness, this is a perfect opportunity to make a wave in a demographic that's not used to what I can bring. It's so exciting. To be able to walk into a room and be different, we should embrace that. And that's okay, because different brings the kind of ideas that become ideas that stay around for a lifetime. And so I would be like, all right, what teams need me? Let me walk into there, right? And so definitely don't be discouraged. Work together. I think, Meka left, but Meka has been pivotal in helping me come here, like just encouraging me. And if you see somebody else that looks like you, encourage each other, don't be afraid to shy from that at all. And I would say, feel free to reach out to me. Okay. I'm more than happy to give you some advice, and, talk to you about what I've gone through. It hasn't been easy, but again, back to my theme, it's been enlightening.
Thank you for that, Philicia. Anthony George.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much. My name is Anthony George II, a rising junior at Morehouse College. And my question for you is for you, Mr. Brooks. Saying that you were working with all these different teams in all these different cities, how was it going to transitioning to the MLB actual, like the office of working with all 32 teams instead of just working for one ball club?
Yeah, it definitely is very different. When you're at a club, let's say an organization, like I worked for the Braves for my first 11 seasons in the game, I mean, your focus is really about you individually as a team and your group and how you're advancing your organization. When you get to a position where you're dealing with the commissioner's office, it is a little bit different in that your job is to help make things easier for all 30 clubs as a whole and do whatever you can in any way possible to do whatever you can as a service to help those 30 teams that may be in need. And also you also see the differences, which is a great part of when you work at the commissioner's office. You see the differences of how each team's, how they operate, the people, their own methodology. So there's things you can technically could kind of learn from being around the different 30 clubs and seeing different things because of how they each operate. So there's a lot there. The one thing to understand too is just the lifestyle is a little bit different also. When you're at a major league team, especially with having night games and games on the weekends, you're normally going to have to be at the ballpark as part of your role in some way. When you're at the office of the commissioner, it is typically more of a 9 to 5 Monday through Friday, unless there's an event or something going on that you specifically have to be involved with or have to travel for. So there is a little bit of a lifestyle change. I know when I first joined the commissioner's office back in 2016, I remember like one of my first like weekends, I was like, wow, I was weird. I'm not used to having like actual free time to do things with like fully with my family and just trying to understand that. Obviously in any role that you're involved with, you try to do the very best to try to balance, your relationships with family, friends as much as you can. But there are a lot of different things where you'll be involved, especially during different parts of the year. That's where you have to understand that. And, but obviously it's about what you're doing something that you love to do. When you have that feeling, that's the greatest thing ever. And I've been very blessed to do that for these 28 years. Just doing something I love to do each and every day, where I feel motivated each and every day. I can do also, I remember a feeling of, I started my career in the front office and then I went out in the field as an evaluator and learned on that side. And I also just remember that feeling when I went back into the front office, when I joined the Pirates. And I just remember that feeling of, wow, I actually have an office right here in PNC Park in the stadium. This is my place of business. And that was an amazing feeling. I remember I was walking through the tunnel there in PNC Park, and inside the tunnel, you see all these different pieces of artwork, with Roberto Clemente, Willie Stargell. And I was like, here I am, I'm coming to work here with this franchise, with this opportunity. And I'm embracing that. And that was important. And understanding we were not very good when I got to Pittsburgh. And here I want to be a part of something that's bigger than myself and helping us win as an organization. Eventually it happened. My first year in Pittsburgh, we lost 105 games. I don't wish that on anybody. And that is tough. And to see the turnaround, but it took steps of seeing it happen. Finally, in 2013, several years later, we made the postseason for the very first time. And that was quite special to have that opportunity to be a part of. And you knew so much went into that, and all different levels, both on the business side and the baseball side. So that was something that was very, very special, something I almost cherish more than my time in Atlanta, where we won year in and year out, each and every year. I was a part of 10 division titles during the course of my 11 seasons there. So, and went to 2 World Series during that time period. But I appreciate all the effort and the work that we put into in Pittsburgh during that time, almost more than that period in Atlanta where I started my career.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for that, Kiara Green.
Good afternoon or evening for you guys. I'm on LA time. Good evening to all of you. My name is Kiara Green. I'm a rising graduating senior at Hampton University. And my question for Mr. Brooks, I would say, I recently started an organization at my school that's focused on bringing industry professionals to Hampton to interact and share knowledge. And what is a piece of advice you would give in terms of connecting with these industry professionals to have them come in and have them excited to speak to the students and, give back to our HBCUs?
No, definitely feel free to reach out to me. I would love to come through this upcoming fall. Glad to see if we can get in front of individuals like yourself that are interested in getting into this industry. And that's something we're trying to do a better job of, just make sure we're getting in front of individuals so you can have that firsthand opportunity to get to know further about what it takes to get into our industry. So, hey, the biggest thing is I don't want you to feel alone. That's the biggest thing. In this game, you cannot do this all by yourself. There has to be people along the way that support you, whether it's Vince, others, myself, everyone on this panel that can try to help you on your journey. And the biggest thing is I want to make sure that individuals feel supported, and they also see others like them, like myself and others that have also been down this road, and we want to help you. And that's the great gift about this game is individuals want to share and give back as much as possible. We want to see you do well and be successful. And I want to do my part. If I can come down there, I'll be glad to make the drive, make the trip down there. I'm actually just a few hours away from Hampton, so I'm glad to come down there this upcoming fall. So just definitely extend an invitation to me for sure, and I will be there.
For sure. Thank you.
Awesome. We might be able to sneak in two more. I've got KJ Chadwick.
How you doing? My name is KJ Chadwick. I'm a rising sophomore at North Carolina Central University, and my question is kind of towards Mr. Brooks or anybody on the panel. So you guys work in a sport that's primarily based on failure. How do you guys deal with failure on your day-to-day task and what you do with your job?
Yeah, I mean, we can all kind of chime in on this one. It's definitely a challenge of every day trying to be as organized as possible, and with certain things you're dealing with. It's funny. I can also remember back to when I first got into the game. I was in my first year, and we had just went to the World Series, and we were having our first set of meetings to kind of prep and get ready for the next year. And I made a huge mistake, and I fully will admit this, that when we had that first set of meetings, I showed up maybe like 20 minutes prior to the meetings when I should have probably been there an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours before the meeting started. And here I was, I had the GM of the Braves pull me aside and was telling me, hey, you should have been here like hours ago, or just to make sure everything was fine, because the low man on the totem pole, hey, your job is to make sure everything is organized, taken care of. So I learned a lesson immediately into my first full year just because of that. And I learned, hey, make sure I do whatever I can to support everything, make sure I'm there in advance early to make sure everything is in order. So those little lessons like that, I learned a ton from. And it's great that he pulled me aside to even let me know that, because I would have known. I guess I was kind of all into myself at that time. Oh, we just went to the World Series and everything, but just definitely the people that we have in this game truly matter a ton. And there's a lot of things you can learn along the way. And you're gonna make mistakes. That's one thing too. But obviously try to do as best you can to minimize those. Even the little things, checking when you're sending an email, make sure you're doing your spell check, make sure you're looking at things in documents that you're going to be submitting. Always do it, double check before you hit that send button, take a look just to make sure. Those little things, they do matter.
All right, so we're right at 6:15. I know that our panelists would likely love to stay and answer more questions. I know we could keep it going, but I have to be respectful of folks' time. Philicia, Tyrone, Josh, thank you all so much for spending time with us this evening. To our partners at the Minnesota Twins, we really appreciate being able to create this space to have this dialogue, create more exposure around the game and business of baseball, and plant seeds for relationships that I think will grow both within the student base and our executives, seeing connections create as well. So I did want to give the floor very quickly to Leticia Silva, who is our contact with the Minnesota Twins, to talk a little bit about careers with the organization. Leticia, I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, thank you all for joining, and to our panelists. You got to hear from a few of our bright stars here with the Twins. I'm Leticia, I'm the Senior Vice President of HR with the Twins. So I wanted to highlight each year about September timeframe, we do post all of our internship and fellowship positions. We usually have about 43 different positions, and we have a few in Florida at our Florida location for if you're not convinced of the Minnesota winters. But the most of them are here in Minnesota, but the handful are at our spring training location, and they expand from technology, sales, baseball communications, target field events, just a number of areas all throughout our organization. So want to make sure and get that on your radar. And if you have any questions or want to connect further, feel free to reach out to any of our folks, or you can also reach out to myself. We would love to have you and connect with you more on our opportunities. So feel free to reach out. And again, thank you all for attending, and Vince for having us here today.
Absolutely. Leticia, thank you so much. To our panelists, thank you again. Students, thank you for taking the time to invest outside, even during your summer, investing in yourself. I will say for the Minnesota Twins, they are one of the organizations who have partnered and immediately found a way to add value to what we're doing. So I'm very confident that it's an organization that, should you take that trek up north and decide to go brave the cold with Meka, Philicia, Leticia, and crew, you'll be in great hands, right? And you'll also have our Academy network to lean on to. So thank you all again for the time this evening. Tyrone, it's so great to see you again, my brother. Everybody, if you have additional questions, we'll make a LinkedIn post tomorrow. Let's keep the conversation going there, all right? Have a great night. Thank you so much. We'll be in touch. Love and respect. Take care.
Vincent,
Thank
I was
you.
wondering, do you have just a quick moment?
Let me stop our recording here.